Well, hello. We are back.
Welcome, everyone.
My name's Jeremy,
I'm Jeff.
and together we make up a little video podcast called What More Could You Want? And if it's your first time joining us, we thank you. We welcome you. And
Always.
we hope you're ready to listen to us talk about some difficult shit. You can poke and laugh. You can join in. You can stew on it. You can do whatever you need. Whatever helps make your day go better, we hope that we give you a little bit of it.
Absolutely.
So that's that. And today, we've got a tough subject.
Absolutely.
We got one that hits home with every single person that listens and every single person that doesn't.
I say every human.
Absolutely.
As long as you have an emotional string to your heart and your existence of a soul,
That's right.
This should be one that every single person who hears this can relate.
So I'm going to say this, and while I'm saying this, just know that I feel like I'm going to come off my chair. I'm vibrating so much. I've been feeling really, really close to, I guess, I don't know, to something lately, and I've had overwhelming urges to head things on, just straight on, and it's in turn given me a lot of really good feeling inside. You know, a lot of I don't know. I guess it's not completion, but it's just being proud of myself that I haven't let my anxiety or depression or whatnot get in the way of making some shit happen lately.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a good tie-in because when we all deal with loss, which is our subject today, sometimes we go so far inside that we forget about everything outside.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Sometimes I know myself, I'm guilty of it this week alone. I had no reason to look external. I had plenty of pain inside, and I was pushing that pain outside. I was projecting onto my wife, maybe onto my children a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
When they did something that was maybe just an inkling of stepping over the line or maybe not listening, whatever it is, teenagers do. I lost it. I put all that negative shit on them in my own way. And I think that our losses that we've both experienced this week in different ways are they're indicative of what every one of us has to deal with on the daily in some form or another. So, I know, Jeff, that this last week marked an anniversary that you don't like thinking about, and I'm sure you don't like throwing it all out there, but now is the time that you get.
I don't think it's so much. I guess it can and can't be, rough for me. I think it's more rough for those who knew my father. So I'll dive it in and go with it. So
Let's do it, man.
This past Sunday, January 10th, 1984, 37 years ago, my father passed away early in the morning from a heart attack. Had some medical issues as a young kid and something, just unfortunate thing that happened and caught him at a very young age. He was only 34. And so, I was a little over 3 months and change. Was just born the previous year in September. So when the anniversary comes, it's kind of, you don't know what to feel. And I kind of, like I was telling Jeremy before we hopped on here, writing a little thing I posted about him yesterday, when I went to visit his gravesite, and just Sunday was just a manic day and probably wouldn't have been in a good headspace to go. But just sitting there at the grave, and I usually just sit there and talk, as many people do, and kind of reflect, and sometimes just quiet. Like, it's kind of one of those things. It's somber. Like, is it better to have no memories with someone? Because it's 3 months old. There's not a memory to my brain from that point. I don't know his face. I don't know, no laugh, no voice. Like, if by chance he'd be alive and walked up, I wouldn't know.
Do you ever feel like you're obligated to grieve?
No.
Even by yourself?
No, like, when I go, I'll admit, like, yesterday, I lost it, and I sat and cried, and I usually do, either his birthday or the day that he passed, and it's more so of not grieving and loss. It's more of grieving and sadness of, I don't know you, because, well, I don't, and that's what I was kind of going back when I was writing all that stuff yesterday of, when I was at the gravesite, and I sat there for a while, and all this stuff hit my head, and then I sat in my truck, and I just pulled out my phone, and I just started, writing in my little notes thing, and it's it's like a double-edged sword. It's one thing of cool. I don't have a lot of the pain and sadness that a lot of people have when you lose someone, but yet on the other hand, I don't have a memory, good moment, bad moment, like one of those things that when like my grandpa, I can think about a lot of great instances and great memories. And I also think about when he passed and all the things that we went through, but I didn't, I was a infant, literally probably in a bassinet sleeping when this chaos ensued and paramedics and whatever not happened that morning, and that's not something I'm going to ask my mom, the inner details. I know what happened in the big part, but I don't feel it's something that like I feel obligated to grieve. I cry and feel sad at those moments because I want to know who he was, talk with him, those moments that most people would like to share with a relative, parent. Not everyone, again, is not blessed to have that either. I'm not alone in this. That those big moments I wrote, I think one year, and that was the hardest year, I wrote like stuff talking about that have been lovely the day my daughter was born, to have you walk in, hold her, and see your reaction. And, big moments of my life, it would have been good. And it had been also, it's like, well, what my life would have been. But then you always got to go full circle of what we've talked about. Well, if he never had passed, probably would never have met my wife, would not have my daughter, probably wouldn't be sitting across from you. It's all those big what ifs you got to ponder. But the biggest thing is it's just sadness of there's no memory. It's all photos, stories from my mom, his friends, other, my family and people who knew him, and it's always nice that if my mom or I would post something on social media, everyone does, or like my one uncle would always mention, oh man, he was this, or his friends. Like I get to hear those stories from people who literally grew up with him, known him a lifetime. So that's nice. And you get to hear how good of a man he was, and hope that he's proud. And, many people will tell you is, and I assume he is.
Yeah, of course.
But it's just hard. It's a different grieving than losing someone that you knew and had that connection and got to spend time with. It's just hard. And
you've got something that we in the military used to call a delta. You've got quite a gap there.
Mm-hmm.
You got where something is not happening.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just take this scenario for myself real quick and then give it back to you. But just so people can understand, my father left me and my mother whenever I was born. Mm-hmm. So same thing. You don't know that person. He wasn't dead.
Yep.
But I got to spend a handful of days with him before he died.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking so selfishly, why couldn't I get more time? Why is it he just came back into my life? I only get him for so many days. I didn't ask these questions. I didn't do all these things. But then I speak with someone like you, and you go, well, I just never got any of it.
Yeah.
And it sucks you back into reality so quickly to where you just think, oh, shit, I need to be thankful for what I did have.
It's And I did have moments with him, because obviously there's photos, and I wrote about like, that's all I got is photos.
Yeah.
Pre to my existence, and then the short few after my existence of him feeding me, him holding me asleep, on his chest. I have those. Yeah. And then I put like, we did meet. I just unfortunately don't remember the meeting.
Yeah.
Till whatever, one day, wherever the cosmos or however you want to believe, you meet up again.
Yeah.
It is weird. And it makes I see it from all angles as I was sitting there writing, and as many years have gone by, now I'm 37, and you've understood, and you get older, and you kind of see how life's path may not be the way you want it. And I kind of quoted Gary Allen's song, like, life ain't always beautiful, but it's a beautiful ride. And that was a song like my father-in-law introduced me to before I knew them, but his father had passed. That was a song to his kind of dad, and it makes complete sense to me. And the whole lyrical, if you guys ever heard it, great song, listen.
Yeah.
Might bring some tears to your eye. But it's not having those memories, but then sitting there and going, okay, well, taking the time to have memories with other people and people in your life, and knowing that, like, hey, if they would pass, I've known this person for X amount of years. How lucky am I to have had that relationship for years or days, if it's something like that. It's just a weird thing because it's hard to explain. It really is, and I know there are other people out there that may not know a family member, or like a lot of people don't know their grandparents.
Right.
They're gone before they're there or whatever, but it's just weird, and it's a weird emotional time and stuff, mostly around his birthday because our birthdays are only 12 days apart.
Yeah.
I go there, and usually what I do is he loved Budweiser, and I get an actual 6-pack from the one gas station near the cemetery because it's still a 6-pack. You got to pull from the plastic ring and sit there. And I laugh because I hadn't been there in a while. And, every year my mom gets like the Christmas wreaths and grave wreath that they put over. A lot of people do. And
right.
We got like fake flowers in the side, little, granite flower thing, whatever they're called. And sitting there, I walked up and just smirked and like basically tears started rolling. I'm like, there's the Budweiser from the last time I sat here that the cemetery staff didn't get rid of. It's still sitting in the flower pedestal.
Oh, that's
and all
amazing,
that. And
man.
it's, it's not long. It's still there. It's like the UV, the sun has removed all the red, and it's just like, man, that's still there. And I've left it there. So
sure,
I think it's been there since last year sometime. I don't remember when. And then I have the cans at home that I write on the bottom with a Sharpie, had a beer with Dad for his birthday, or just went there and did it. And I didn't start that little tradition till I was in my 30s, but it never hit me at 21 or in my 20s to go do those things.
Well, yeah, your brain isn't, for one, you're not ready to tackle that subject yet. You're still injured.
Yeah, and it became more apparent to do those things. I think maybe my wife may have suggested it, if I'm trying to remember, but it was, my daughter would have been at that point literally just born, I think, shortly after. And I think that's when it was like,
yeah,
I should go sit there.
Yeah.
And I literally do just sit there, and I've brought tall ones. I've brought, normal. And I just sit there, and I'll drink the full beer through and sit and talk and, crack it. I actually open his can and, cheers it and just sit. And many a times I don't say anything. I just sit there sipping, and I just stare off. And it's nice that where his grave faces, it's just woods. Yeah. And obviously there's a road, behind me, but it's peaceful, and it's, I don't know, but it's no different than I think than a lot of people that someone you lost, you have conversations with them even if you're not there. Like for my grandpa, for instance, after he passed 10 years ago, the only time I went thereafter is for my grandma.
Yeah.
It is harder for me to go to his, but I'll have many conversations. Certain things remind me he was a farmer, so every time driving by a field or there's a tractor, it's like I'm remembering like being in the tractor. Like those things with the people we lost, it brings those memories. And then a lot of things, like my dad was a plumber, so like when I fix things around the house, I don't have any of this in me because unless we want to say it's ingrained from DNA, all this is things I had to learn, but it's like this is what he did, and did plumbing for homes, and all this kind of stuff to think like, oh, this is what he did. I'm like, hey, I did this, like, doing small odd things. And like, did I do it right? Like thinking in my head, like, all right, Dad, if I didn't do this right, let me know.
Yeah, man.
I'm going off that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do with all this stuff. And I've done, I'm not any expert in it, but it's those little things in those moments, doing things like, got to replace the pump in the toilet, or had to replace the flipping sump pump one year. It's little things like that, or things around the house. Cause he built my parents' house with his friends. Like doing those things makes me think like, hey, did I do it right?
Yeah.
And I'll secretly say that in my head for that, that validation, even though I'm not getting a response, but it makes me feel good inside. Like, cause all those things that you just don't get. And
dude, it's go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, it's just one of those things. I don't know, man. The whole thing is weird. Like it's hard to put into words for how I feel with it all. as when I was younger, it was hatred, but not to my father, hatred to the world of, especially growing up in a more religious based schooling of God and blah, 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 is supposed to be so good, obviously.
Been there.
And that, and that's probably many of people, and especially in this day and age, it's, it's one of those weird things. But then I got older, you mature, I became a father, and I think you see those stepping stones and you look back and go, I had to hop and be on some broken stones and
hey man,
go swerving a little bit and get you here, but then you just look back. So,
every time I see one of those pictures of the little kid's hand up and the father's hand down, fucking crushes me.
Yeah,
it crushes me because guys like you and I, you just got a hand, and mom's there, but we all know that's only part of the puzzle.
Yeah,
there's a whole other side that where a mother teaches her daughter about things, a father teaches his son about things, and. I know I'll speak from firsthand experience. I've got some siding on my home that I need to repair. And my father got pretty good at doing that stuff because his father, my grandfather, was in the building trade. Really good with all the stuff exterior home. And now I look at it and I think, I don't know how I'm going to bring myself to repair that because he was supposed to be there with me to do it.
Yeah.
Before he died, we were sitting on my back porch. And he looked over there and he saw it. He said, I'd be happy to come over and help fix that. And I said, well, as long as you don't mind my son sitting in, because I want him to learn it too. And, we never could get to it. So it's things like that crop up every day.
Yeah.
Right? Like whether you're fixing the toilet or whether you say something to your child and then you automatically realize, man, I shouldn't have said that. I wonder if my dad would have said that.
Yeah.
Or like, how should I have done that? Or when you don't know what to do and all you want to do is pick up a fucking phone and call your dad to ask him a question, you don't have it. So where do guys like you and I go for that? What happens to that? There's a void there. There's a delta. There's a gap. And nobody ever teaches us how to overcome that gap.
No, especially I think when we were younger. Maybe now because there's more, I would assume, more studies and things involved to help children, whether psychologists and stuff like that can help with that. There's more research on that aspect. But, I was blessed to have two great grandpas who taught me a lot of things that filled that role, quite well. And grandpa was jack of all trades. I don't have it, I'm going to build it if it was within reason, and
right.
Other grandpa, same thing, but it's cool to, those memories, like his dad was in the Army. My dad was in the Army, then trade. And then my grandpa did all the various things. And my mom's dad was a farmer. I call him MacGyver, give him whatever and he can make it work. And
man,
you learn from those people, but you're right. There's that gap that you don't get as a kid, because
you don't get it for your entire life.
You see it like playing on sports teams and one of the guys, the other kids I play with, his dad's the coach or their dads are the assistants coach it's those small things that we're missing. But that's also too, then we're like my grandpa, both of them came into play. Both were athletes, one especially. So I think it built stronger relationships with them, which could have not happened if my father was alive. I'm sure it would have still been that same way, but it's, I don't know. Like I'm at a loss for words with it. Like I apologize with it. Like I just, it's complicated. Like to really sit, like, what I kind of wrote, it's just the biggest thing is you just look at it from the perspective of it can be bad and it can be good. How do I want to look at him passing 37 years ago? Yeah. I could hate the world. I could be miserable, is probably how I was when I was younger, because that's a lot. You don't understand those things as a kid, and you're not going to.
Right.
Even if you went to see somebody, no therapist is going to make a child understand the loss of life.
Right.
Unless they're a very intelligent child. And it's just, as I got older, you see those things, and it's just, biggest thing is we did meet. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
But he got to meet me.
Yes.
And I kind of think of that and reflect on that so we flip this, that yes, I met him, but I really didn't. because I don't have a memory. He got to meet me for almost a little over three some odd months, whatever it comes down to. I was trying to figure that out beforehand.
Right.
He got to meet me for that long. Feed me, wipe my ass, the things that you do with a newborn. He got to be that proud father for those 3.5 months.
Yeah.
He got that. So he got the experiences that he wanted. Unfortunately, his life was cut. I didn't get them, but he got them. And so that's another thing. As I sat there when I got back into my truck yesterday, like, he got those experiences. He got what he needed from me. I may not have gotten what I want from him, but I'm getting it from just moments in life when we have our talks. If I'm driving or here at the grave, or if I'm doing something at home, like, hey, what do you think of this? I liked it. Like, and I had those moments when I do stuff. And so I think that's a good way. If you've lost someone when you were really young and you didn't know them or have that memory, flip it onto them that they got to know you and experience your beauty and joy of life, and you're experiencing theirs just in your everyday life.
It's a beautiful way to look at it. So you're just saying there is still good that came from it.
It
just isn't the good that you really would have expected or wanted.
Yeah, it is. And I'm saying 37 years. It wasn't until my probably 30s that it took a lot. A lot of big events. I would talk to my dad. I got cross thing tattooed on my arm. That was my first tattoo, was, rest in peace, Dad, cross thing on my arm. But every sporting event, for every track race, before every fight, I wasn't praying. I was talking to my dad. I was talking to, my one grandpa who passed away, and anyone who couldn't be there that I wanted to draw energy from. I just sat and would talk to them and say, all right, we're getting ready to run this race or this fight. I want you all to be in my corner. It was that.
Did you ever feel them there?
I think I did. I think it's why a lot of athletes pray or do that. I think it's that, like you were saying beforehand, that warming blanket, that warming sensation that comes over you that, and there's photos of me. I'm down and I got my gloves. Most of the time it was when I fought, and it would be like this. And I had my, all my gear on, and be like this down and on my toes. And I got a lot of pictures of it. And I was like, are you praying? I'm like, no, I'm talking to people.
Yeah.
Not to disregard prayer, but I was just, hey, I'm getting ready to go do this.
Yeah, man.
No matter the outcome, I know you guys are with me. And and people who are live, like, if my grandpa or another teammate or friend couldn't be there, or someone's like, be there with me. You guys are here. You're in spirit. I know you're whatever I said, it's probably changed, but
sure.
Drawing the energy of whether you're here or not. And it's that sense of relief. And that was always the last thing I did. Like track, I'd do it right before we had to get into the blocks. Right after I usually took off my warm-up fights. It was always right before, the usher would come out and go, all right, you're up. You're on deck, and you're waiting to walk out, and it'd be right before walking out doing those things. And it was just that, I think, that calming peace. And that's what I've told people walking out to fights or getting ready to run. My heart rate's not going a mile a minute. It's literally like calm. Yeah. And it's not until that last split second, then it's like a surge of adrenaline, flip the switch.
Yeah.
And it's just conversation with those people, trying to draw good energy from whether you're here or whether you're gone.
Do you ever write to your father? Like literally write him a letter?
I did when I was younger, and I have no idea where it is.
You know what, man? I would ask, just from friend to friend, that maybe you try to write a note to your dad. Just a note. Not even, man, it can be a sticky note.
Yeah.
Dad,
that's a good idea.
I got this going on today. I could really use you. It helps.
I'll have to look through my journal. I might have something, but I did once, I know when I was younger, in just a little spiral, crappy little one subject notebook.
Yeah,
I can remember doing it in my room. I just have no clue where it would be.
Well, it doesn't matter.
One day it'll come up.
Because you were a different person then.
Yeah.
So no matter what you said then, you'd look at it now and go.
No different than Lincoln writing his letters of anger and never mailing them, and he forgot about them, and then they find them in his desk,
Yeah.
But I've done that once, and it's a great idea to do just with anything in life.
Anything. It really is, man. Now let me ask you this. Do you think that you fought because of the loss of your father. Do you think that somehow, given those years and years and years, especially in your adolescence, teenage years, those formative years of not having dad around, did that create anger? Did that create some sort of maybe inner struggle or rage that maybe pushed you into that direction?
I'd say no. I'd say getting into martial arts was always just that kid that was infatuated with every kung fu martial arts movie on TV.
Okay, that's
like
awesome.
Bruce Lee, like Five Venoms, all the old school ones that occasionally would be dubbed over.
Yeah.
And I would just be like glued. And even I remember renting them from the library because, you know, before Blockbuster and all this were bigger, renting the crazy kung fu movies and how to do martial arts movies and being in my, you know, basement doing that stuff. That came from that. But I did have anger issues, and I'll still say to this day I do. And could that stem from it? Probably. Yeah. Anger of just that, but it could be many other things.
I think every time you get mad as a young child and you don't get to express it to someone or get it out, it builds up. It doesn't go anywhere.
No, yeah.
So imagine you had a staircase building of events and this timeline that was tumultuous at best. I'm sure that somewhere, somehow, it at least played a role somewhere.
I would agree.
Yeah.
The martial arts, everyone wondered, because I am a hothead. Some people that do know me, but like, how could you fight? It literally was sport. It was not to prove anything. It was sport, and I enjoyed it.
Right.
It literally was, okay, light switch on, light switch off.
Yeah. So how vital does your wife play in her role in this situation for you?
Like of the loss?
Yeah.
She understands because her and my daughter have come. I don't remember the first time we brought our daughter to the grave. I do remember when we found out, because we found out, I think the day of or the day after I turned 27 that my wife was pregnant. And so did that. And then I think it was maybe that week, a couple weeks later, I went and said, you know, hey, old man,
yeah,
you're going to be a grandpa.
Now, did you ever fear? Like when you realize, okay, I'm 10 years younger than my dad, which really has no bearings on anything, I understand. But oh, fuck. What happens if I'm not here?
So,
like, what kind of anxiety did that cause?
So in college, my freshman year, I had chest pains a few times in practice. And so I had the horrible fear that what happened to my dad was going to happen to me. So went to doctors, got EKGs, like normal. Well, let's send him to a cardiologist. Got stress test, ultrasound of my heart. That's pretty cool to see. Got numerous tests done. Had to wear the heart rate monitor for X amount of time. And when I wore it, that was like having a giant tape set strapped to the side of you with all these electrodes, and had to tape it to my body to practice. Like, it was miserable. And I had to explain to the team, like, they're running tests in my heart. I have had some issues, and I just want to be safe, and kind of explained. And nobody cared. Coach, everyone, yeah. And so that was 18, 19. Okay. And then everything fine. I had a large heart, just bigger, which could be just due to being athleticism. Nothing crazy and nothing out of the ordinary, you know, type thing.
Right.
And it wasn't until getting into my late 30s, it became more of a countdown, because he passed at 34. You know, he was born September 6th. I was born September 18th. He passed away January 10th on his, 34th, just a few months after his birthday, and I was born. As I got closer to that age, it really did. I was very fearful that, okay, this could happen. And there's no correlation to how he passed to me. It was days and days of high fever, stress in the organs. And as everyone knows, back in that time frame in the 50s, medical technology is not now. And you didn't rush off to the hospital. They lived in a rural area, so who knew where the nearest hospital? That was part of the reason with it. But it weighed, and I did. I'll say through the 30s and coming up on 34 and then turning 34, like, okay, then I'm 34. It's the anniversary of his death. Okay. Year goes on. Okay, I'm 35. I'm 36. I'm 37. it's kind of been pushed to the back of my head that that's not going to be me.
Yeah.
If it is, it's out of my control.
Right.
But I know that my heart is strong from the fitness and the lifestyle that I live. But I also understand if I am to go whenever that may be, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And it won't be explained. It's obviously it's not meant to be explained to me, and it won't be explained to those who know me or love me, and
right.
et cetera. But yeah, through the 30s to 34, that was a lot of anxiety of, could this happen?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Not that there's a family history of people in their 30s, you know, unfortunately passing. No, both grandpas lived into their 90s, grandmas, great aunts into their hundreds. No, all things like that. So,
yeah, man.
But yeah, that's a good question, man. And yeah, that weighed very heavily. And then thoughts of now being a father, like, okay, what if I do pass?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Well.
And then I had the flip, and I apologize to my wife, but like I had the flip of, well, what if she goes? Now this is reversed, and I'm.
Oh, don't even start on that shit.
And it hit me. That hit me
yeah.
too. Of that. Now, what if this flips and she's gone, and now it's just me and my daughter, you know? And then it's just like push it out of your head, but it's no different than a lot of that Sam Harris stuff and some of the Stoic meditations. Is I can't remember what it's called, but actually negatively thinking about things.
Yeah.
They encourage it, because if you do think about those things, and it shouldn't be just dwell and dwell and dwell. It's a thought.
Yeah.
You understand it. You can conceptualize it, because then if you've ever thought about it, which we have these thoughts, and it does happen, or it does happen, you understand it and you will deal with it better.
Yeah.
And that's what they explain a lot of like wealthy people do. Like, if I lose all my riches, okay.
Yeah. Do it again.
I can do it again.
That's right.
And obviously we can't rebuild life and all that, but it's back to that same thing. If I lost someone I love, yes, I won't get them back, but damn, look how long we had together.
Yeah, man.
You know,
painted a beautiful picture.
It's those exact same things. So, and it just rolls back to those things. It's such, death is such a weird thing to think about. That's why I like a lot of the Stoic stuff. It calms me. They dwell on a lot of that, but in the way of, you can't fear it.
Right.
That's something that,
and even if you do fear it, you have to take it head on.
You do, because if you fear your end, then you're not really living, because that's all you're focusing on. And, and it's one of those things. It's crazy to sound. We're not trying to sound like very, I don't know how what to word it, but you guys get it. It's just an overall weird thing when you think about death, whether from my father's scenario to someone I've known or whatever. I learned that I can't dwell. If he passed from this, it's not going to happen to me. No, it's not to say that when I'm older, I couldn't, pass in a similar manner from a heart attack. Hopefully not. But so it's just the path.
It just goes back to just being, right? Like we can all, now that we have better clarity, hindsight's 20/20, that whole thing. You can look backwards and say, "Oh wow, yeah, well, man, thank goodness I found meditation, or I found karate, or I found whatever it is."
It's just learning to understand and appreciate each day. Is you wake up out of bed, you put both feet on the ground. I'm alive.
Yeah, man, for real. I know when my father died, it really, really, it challenged me in my thought of my mortality. Mm-hmm. It was so close, but I don't want to get to me yet. I want to ask you another question.
Okay.
And if it's too difficult, then by all means, just tell me to pound sand.
Roll with it. We'll see.
If you could have a conversation with your father right now, what do you think he would say to you?
I think from flipping the standpoint, for just to put it in, if I was in his shoes and it's reversed and me talking to my child, if you got like 1 minute to speak and that's all you got, there's a lot of songs that, like, if you got 1 minute, I think it would just be just telling your child how proud you are, everything they've done. Yes, you've messed up, but look how far you come. You never gave up. I think that's what it would be.
Right. Well, if I will second that, but I would like to add more to that, because I think you're being you're selling yourself a little short. I think that if I was your father and we were having a conversation, I would tell you that I'm not proud of you. I'm astonished by you. I'm not proud of you. I'm absolutely staggered at how strong you are given your circumstances. And not even just given your circumstances, because you next to another chap that's got a much better, easier road, you're still going to come out ahead. So I don't know what it is that crawled up your ass and lit that fire, Jeff, but I'm so thankful it did. And I know that your beautiful wife and your beautiful daughter are thankful for that too. So start writing your dad, man.
I appreciate those words, man. Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
No, I will say it's a hard question to answer. Like, what you would hope that and you assume that. But I think if you as a parent or you had that one moment with someone, you had, let's just say, a time frame of 60 seconds, you would do nothing but praise for 60 seconds.
Dude, I would hug so hard.
I think it would be a hug and just sitting there talking the entire time. And I think, honestly, if I was given that chance, I probably wouldn't be able to even speak.
I don't think you would either.
No, it'd be just shut up.
And
because I wouldn't want to waste 60 seconds of me talking when I've not heard this voice.
So I think here's where I'm getting with this. I think that if you start writing to him and you start sitting after you've written and have those inner monologues or inner dialogues with him, I think there's going to be a moment when you know that he's there listening.
I agree.
I mean, really know, because you can feel it, you know? And I say this from experience. There is a feeling that comes over your body when you do that kind of work and you throw yourself out there and you use intent. Dad, I'm writing you because of this. You know, I need this. Or Dad, I'm sharing this with you and whatever.
It's very similar to praying. Some people pray every day.
Yeah.
But then most people pray or find religion because of struggle, looking for answer. Yes. And I think you're exactly right, using the form of just writing a letter to ease pain or ask for that extra help or watching over or just writing to have a conversation. Because I'll say, it probably would have felt much better yesterday. I had my stuff with me with work. I could have pulled out like my notebook and I could have wrote. Yeah. But how good it felt just to put it in my phone. And I didn't type most of it.
Yeah. I just text to speech or whatever.
Yeah, I did that to hear it, because then I hear it my thoughts and then I hear it my own voice. And then as these two are already happening, I'm reading it before me. And obviously, that still got a long way to go, and I don't speak the clearest when I do that. And I was already at that point,
right,
crying, and so trying to fight that back and then do that. And it was very calming and soothing. But every time I go there, it's not painful. Like for my mom, it might be painful. Yes, because there's more of a loss. There's more memories. Yeah. There's the loss of that, then the challenge that ensued thereafter for her for however many years. And, well, you can still say to this day.
Yeah, right?
Sure. It's something that's not going to go away, and for others. But it was very calming. And then usually most times some days in the cemetery I don't lose it. And then yesterday was one of those days. On the way there, I was talking to my wife, and I go, hey, I'm here. I'll see you when I get home. Yeah. And she knows I would. And I probably could have called, but I just needed that time. It's not very far. So I needed that time to collect my thoughts. But I got back in the truck. I wrote that, sat there, and his grave's not far off the road, and just stared at it and was like, all right, old man, let me know if you need me.
Yeah, man.
I always need you. So, be there, kind of that last, convo. And, I always like, kiss the grave or hug the grave. I'm sure, I'd look like an idiot to someone driving by, but people get what it is. And then driving off, and then I played that Gary Allan song, and then that just destroys me. Yeah. And I understand it, and I'm glad that my father-in-law has the strength to play that, because my wife says that's one of the only, she's seen, I think, her dad cry twice in her entire life, and that's not uncommon. Yeah. And, but that song, and that's a different era. Yeah. Neither here nor there. But when I first heard that song, it's like, damn, I see why he chose that song. Sure. Because of his father, talking about seeing your face one more time, you know, tears will fall, like all these things that you do. Now, a lot of it I can't relate to in the song, but
Right.
the message speaks. Played that man, lost it, you know, just because it's a good song and it makes me think of him in a good way.
Yes.
But just on the way home, it just makes me sad too, because it's like what I wouldn't give for that one moment to have that 60 seconds. But also I know that if given that chance to have it, something else I'd have to give up to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And it's
yeah.
that thing that I know that if ever put before me, would you take that 60 seconds? It'd probably be no, because something else I would have to give up for that 60 seconds.
Yeah, man. So you got any other tools that you use to try to cope with this? And by cope, I just mean by look at it in the eyes and take it on.
I think it's just been with growth and aging.
Maturity.
In a sense, yes, because it wasn't always this thought process. If we could rewind to, you know, myself at 27, it probably wouldn't have been as bad. Now rewind to me at 17, it probably would have been whatever. Because when I would go to the cemetery with my mom, it was a struggle seeing her. She'd talk, and I usually didn't say much because I was young. I was like, well, what do you do? What do you say? You know, you're a teenager, you know, like, I don't know.
Right.
But I'd have my moments. I would talk to him, and, you know, I'd go there, and I'd say it's just with maturity of understanding life, and you kind of see the path of life. And
Right.
I can't say that anyone young would understand. You might understand grieving. I can't speak on this. Everyone deals with it differently, but it's not any easier as you age, but you understand it. And I think you get to look back on those things of life and death much differently. That I was blessed to be in the presence of such a great person, to know them, have these conversations, relationships, shake their hand, hug them, kiss them, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You have to understand with life, look at those people from that perspective. Like, or in my case, I flipped it. My dad got to hang out with me for a little over 3 months, hold me, feed me, do all the things that to be the proudest dad in the world. Because in those photos, he's smirking ear to ear, like, you know, right after I was born, and, you know, ugly looking shit when you're covered in all the fun things. And you just see these smirks and all that stuff. Like, and then to hear like people say, oh, you kind of look like him, or you have this or that. Like, those are good things to hear. And so it just makes you feel warm and good inside when someone's like, oh yeah, I knew your dad. Oh, he was a great man, you know, but you know, this and that. It's sounding, but then you hear the people, like you said, which I appreciate those words, man. That means a lot what you said.
Yeah, of course.
That people like that, you know, you didn't know them, obviously, you know, you were alive.
I was definitely alive.
You were alive, you know, but it's those things of people who knew and say like, oh yeah, you look like him, or like this, or it's something when somebody catches a mannerism, or something about your demeanor, the way you walk, your gait, anything, and when they reference that, or whether you pick it up, because I picked up things like that from my father, stop you in your tracks, and you just realize how much like you do owe, both good and bad, to your parents. Mm-hmm. You like we've said before, what is it, 11 or 12 generations past or something? That you pick up those things.
We're carrying their burdens, their debts, their grief. Maybe you're carrying all their good stuff too, though. And you just don't realize that.
You can think of, I don't know if he ever saw war. I'd have to ask. I don't think he did, because of, well, I don't know how he got into the military with his condition, but they didn't have the tests like they do now. He'd been mixed. But my grandpa saw, you know, and then I don't know previous to, you know, those things, like, so those things, it's a thing that thankfully a lot of these lineage things that kind of coming up now, and you can do a little bit more digging. You might be able to explain some of your current traits and attributes by going back to seeing what your family was privy to, good or bad.
You know what they say, you want to know the future, just look at history.
Yes.
Right? Because it does repeat itself.
Yeah. It's like I said, like, I'm trying to find words to explain all this, and I was telling him, oh, we're changing here. Yeah. Like, we told Jeremy before the podcast, like, hit me, you know, but it's something we can all relate to. And every year that I go, deeper meaning, I get a lot more in tune with him, myself. Yeah, I might cry sometimes. Yeah, I may not, like, but it's just one of those things. It's just, I felt so at peace sitting there. And I sat there for a few minutes, didn't say anything. You know, I had my conversation with him. Hey, old man, how you doing? I'd like to think I'd call him that. I don't know what I'd say. Dad, you know, pops, you know, father.
He might smack you if you call him old man.
I ain't proper. I don't know. I'd like to think that we'd have that relationship at times. Like, let's go, old man. You think, you know, like,
right? Yeah.
You think let's go. You know, he'd be, I don't even how.
He's probably a lot smarter than that.
34. He'd be in his 70s. I'm not even going to do math right now. My brain can't do that. But, like, you know, you break your hip. Like, having those types of conversations with him, that's when I go, that's how I talk. Thinking that this is the dumb shit we would talk about. And then when we sit, if I sit and I, like, bring beer and I'm not, you know, I'm not getting trashed in the cemetery. I'm just, it's just one.
Right.
I sit there and it's just usually, you know, talk, or there's times I don't even say a word. Just literally sit there.
Yeah, just processing. And
I literally just sit there and I sit on the other side of the gravestone. I lean against it, or I sit on the one side and just let whatever would come to my head come, but sit there and just think, like, you know, a lot of those times too, just like, hey, it's after a long day and we did some project together, and then we're just sitting there and we're just looking at nature and nothing needs to be said.
Yeah.
Just we're in the presence of each other, and that's all that's needed.
Yeah, man.
No word, no nothing. And I think that because it's a lot of things too, like, oh, play his favorite song. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. I just think, I deeply, deeply think that those moments that you have at the grave, I think that those can be had anywhere, man.
Yeah, and
you know
can.
that. You know
and
that.
I know they do, because, like, this past year I didn't get to make it on his birthday and stuff. We were out of town for something, and then with all this other madness, but I had a Budweiser that day, and I opened another one, and I sat at home, and I was like, hey, happy birthday, old man, and I just left it. And then I just literally threw the whole beer away, you know, the next day. But you know, just, but I've done that. And anytime, like, if I do have a Budweiser, I you know, I hadn't drank in a while. I had one over the weekend. I was like, man, that, you know, it sounds good. I have one. I'm like, I'm going to have one. And I think of him, and I think of my coach, Justin, who loved it too. And I was like, hey, cheers to you both up there.
Yeah, man.
Or wherever you may be.
Yeah. And
doing that. And then my one buddy who loves it too, I'm like, oh, man, had a cold one. And he knows the backstory of it too, with my dad and our coach. But those little moments. And then every time I go to the basement and I see the old sump pump, it still works. It just had cracks in it. And you can't replace a lot of that shit. And it's not worth it. But it's just like, I did that. And like, I remember sitting there with flipping this giant LED light my father-in-law gave me, and, you know, watching YouTube to make sure I did it right. Cause, you know, I have no backing in that world, and knowing I did it, and I'm like, all right, I did that. Basement has not flooded, you know?
And I'm going to say this for you because I already know, but when guys like you and I that haven't had that guidance do things like that, there's a level of pride that can't be described.
Oh yeah.
Just about ourselves. Like, you really do feel in that moment, like, holy shit, I just slayed another dragon.
Yeah.
You know, I could have easily called somebody and paid money I don't have, or I shouldn't have, and they would have come out and fixed it, and okay, great, high five. But what if it happens again? You're going to pay him again?
Yeah.
You're going to pay him again? No. So good for you, man.
I really do, because, like, when I did that, and when I've replaced light fixtures and had to replace a pump in one of the toilets, and I'm just thinking, like, you know, imagining my dad when him and my mom built their house and they're installing all this stuff, and like him going through this, obviously he wouldn't, you know, the water, you get a little bit of the water coming out the tank, like, God, stupid water flooding everywhere, like thinking in my head, and towel, I'm like, yeah. But it's just like thinking those things like he did that I'm doing, you know, kind of like in some of those movies where they rewind time and it's, you could overlap it. Him being in the same position, doing the same thing, maybe 40 plus years ago in their house, or in a new construction home, or one of his friends' homes, or whatever may be, that I'm doing similar things, even though that's not my craft and where I went into with my path, but to be able to do those things, it really overlaps, and it makes it feel that connection on those things, because, you know, he loved cars. He had his old Super B, his Challenger. Dude had the muscle cars, and
sounds like
his old beat up work truck and all that kind of stuff, you know, like,
sounds like our kind of guy.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and I always joke, like, like, he'd probably be a fun guy to hang out and just sit by a fire and drink beers with, and just let him ramble on about whatever. And, you know, because he's outgoing and all this. So it's just thinking of those things when I'm in those situations, like, maybe this is how he was.
Right.
And that, I think, brings more peace. So if I can give, like you asked earlier, to some semblance of peace or something to help you with it, is when you're having those fun moments of life, think of that person you may not have met or lost too soon. I wonder if they would have been doing this kind of thing when they were your age, or,
Right.
when they were younger in their life.
Like, what do you think they would have done? Right.
Yeah, what were they doing? What did they do with their friends? Think when they were
Right.
around a bonfire and having some drinks. Would they have been sitting, they've been the life of the party, singing with the song, or what would they have been doing? And I just look at those things from time to time and, like, I wonder if he would have been doing this.
I love that, because you can't help but get a smile on your face thinking about the cool things somebody else could have been doing.
Yeah. It brings like a sadness and a happiness at the same time, but it's the good happy, and it's a good sad, because you're like, man, I wonder what you think of the what if, but then you're like, I bet they did do this.
Yeah, man.
It's kind of like that end of the movie when someone's lost, and at the end they all get together, but they're sad, but they're happy because they're reflecting on all the great memories they had on this character, whenever the movie or the book. They're reflecting on that person, all the great things, and going to continue on living. And I believe that is the biggest thing. And these aren't my words. This is from J.P. Donnell, former Navy SEAL. I had the privilege of meeting him, hearing him speak. Someone asked, like, how do you go on from all those men that you lost? Because he served in some pretty shitty situations and some missions. How do you honor those that are lost? By continuing to live on.
I love it, dude.
That is how you honor him. Because that was more in a question put onto his burden of, how do you function? Because some of the men he served with have taken theirs, and some have, died in service. But I think the best way to honor those who we love and we've lost is for you to continue living your life to the best you can.
Yeah.
That is showing them you care the most about them. Even if you don't have a conversation with them, write them the letter, go to the grave. Maybe it's not accessible. That is the best way that you can honor those who have been in your life and loved, is by living yours to the best you can, I think.
Yeah. I think that's very, very sage advice. And I would thank you on behalf of everybody that's listening for sharing your words, man.
I've been rambling for a long time.
No, you ain't rambled one bit, brother. Not one bit, man. I love it. I really do.
No,
I'm very thankful that you shared it.
It's a good story. No, not a story, but I don't know, man. When it comes to death, I think everyone, I'd like to say that I could offer some words of guidance, but ultimately it's you that's got to decide how you're going to grieve, deal with it, move on. Like I said.
Yeah. And you can think you're good, and then you see someone's face.
You'll have moments.
And you see the look in their face, and you can see their grief is the same that yours is, and you lose it.
Yeah,
Or when you get home because you've been trying to be so strong for everybody.
Yeah, there's songs that come on that remind me of my grandpa, like Amarillo Sky. The entire song's about farmers. That song completely explains my grandpa's life to a T.
Yeah.
That comes on, I get sad and emotional, but think of all the cool things that happened in those. And there's other songs that remind me of him, and there's some songs that remind me of my dad and stuff like that. Like, it's those songs that just kind of put you in a sad moment, but it's like the happy sad. And the tears that come are usually tears of sadness, but they're tears of joy and happiness at the same time, because I can sit and reflect on this moment or that moment or one particular instance, and it's those things that you can dwell on. It's fine to be sad. It's fine to grieve. It's healthy. It's proven.
Sure.
Just do it in a healthy manner, that when you are grieving for someone, are you doing it in a destructive manner? And I've been guilty of that before.
Yeah.
Are you doing it in a constructive manner that's not going to impact anyone else negatively, but you're honoring them at the same time while you're grieving your sadness for them as well?
Well, there's a flip side to all this too, or at least another lesson. And I'll just speak from experience in my family. I've always been the one that early on, I was the one that didn't cry. I was the one that everybody else came and talked to. I was the one that went and got the car and made the arrangements and did all these things. But then I realized that if you really want to be strong for someone, you show them that it's okay to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
You cry. You show them it's okay to put your head on someone else's shoulder and their neck and your arms around them, because then they understand, oh, it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
Like, even that person's crying, so it must be okay for me to cry. Now, that's obviously a very, very 30,000 foot view of it, but it really does speak to our human interaction during grief. Mm-hmm. One person is the rock, the other person is crying. Well, what if we all just let it go, man? Just let that grief go. Cry when you feel like you need to cry. Don't suppress it, because if you suppress it, it will come out at another date. And what happens if you're not ready for it then? You know?
Yeah. And I'll say yesterday, leaving and having my crying, moment, it felt good.
Yeah.
Because it's just talk with them about things going on in the world and, keep having my back and all this kind of stuff, and just listen to that song. It makes me cry, but it makes me smile.
Yeah.
It's sitting there like bawling your eyes out, but you're still sitting there like,
Yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
outside looking in, someone see them, like, what is wrong with this person? But
right.
It's like you're letting your emotions flow of sadness, but at the same time, you're so just happy and peaceful because you just had like a great conversation, a moment with that loved one. And
man. That's beautiful, dude.
Not to lose, not to lose.